Time to talk about Donald Trump's latest housing policy brainchild, the 50-year mortgage. Wow. That's just such a stupid idea that I could hardly even express it properly, okay? Housing experts are absolutely demolishing this new idea as spectacularly dumb. Stupid. So the president is receiving backlash to yet another one of his half-baked policy proposals that probably was just like, I don't know, he probably came up with it in the middle of the night during one of his like Diet Coke drinking binges at 3 a.m. I mean, oh yeah, no, it sounds good if you don't think about it for more than like 30 seconds. Oh wow, extending the mortgages to 50 years, that'll be great. Except, no, it actually wouldn't be great. Now, I'll go over the details here as to why. Now, let me give you some details first. The Federal Housing Finance Agency under Director Bill Pult has been floating this 50-year-old mortgage concept as some sort of game changer for housing affordability. Spoiler alert, of course, it's neither a game changer nor is it going to make housing any more affordable for regular people. So here's the Trump administration's brilliant solution to the housing crisis. Instead of making homes more affordable, let's just make people pay for them longer. Wow. Wow. Whoa, wow. Holy crap. No. Instead of the traditional 30-year mortgage, you'd stretch it out to 50 years. On the surface, oh, it might sound good, right? Lower monthly payments. But no, this is offering someone a longer car loan to make the monthly payment more affordable, yes, while ignoring the fact that they will pay thousands more in interest over time. It is the kind of solution that only really works if you believe making car payments for half a century somehow, house payments for more than half a century somehow makes you more of a homeowner than a debt slave. I mean, this is bad. This is really ridiculous. Housing experts obviously immediately called it what it is, a disaster waiting to happen. Because we're talking about people potentially making mortgage payments all the way into their 80s and 90s. Remember, I think that around the average age of somebody getting a home now is in their 40s, okay? And so, yeah, 50-year mortgage, you're going to be 90 when you have that sucker paid off. Although most likely you'll be dead. I mean, because the average life expectancy in the United States is actually decreasing. Not good. Not good at all. Okay? Look, they would also, by the way, pay more in interest than the actual value of their homes. And of course, this would have the effect of creating a generation of Americans that are trapped into debt for life. They're just trying to figure out ways to trap people in debt forever. Forever and ever. Now, the online reaction, of course, to Trump's 50-year mortgage proposal has been pretty brutal and well-deserved. Okay, critics are calling it spectacularly dumb, and they're not wrong. And here's the irony, right? Trump built his entire political brand on being the real estate genius, okay? And the man who wrote The Art of the Deal, which he didn't actually write. And now is proposing housing policy that is so obviously terrible that the most basic of math shows that this is a disaster waiting to happen. Look, if you extend out these loans, then you're going to end up having higher interest rates. Simple as that. So, because it's more risk. So now you extend these loans, right? And you're paying interest for an additional 20 years. So you're going to end up paying more for the home than it is actually worth. That is not making housing more affordable. It's making it more expensive while pretending otherwise. And here's where it gets more interesting, right? So, as I mentioned, the FHFA director, Bill Pulte, right? He has been promoting this as a potential solution for our affordability problem for houses. Pulte, who apparently thinks that extending debt for half a century is a game changer, same guy that oversees the federal housing finance policy. The fact that this is coming from that agency, which is supposed to be protecting consumers and ensuring housing stability, tells you everything you need to know about how disconnected these people are from the reality of American homeownership. While Trump and his team are busy proposing ridiculous 50-year mortgages, they're ignoring the actual causes of housing unaffordability, which again, you have corporate speculation, obviously, lack of affordable housing. Okay, you got people that are investors that are snapping up these homes, zoning restrictions as well that do prevent dense housing development, and policies that favor investors over first-time home buyers. A 50-year mortgage is not going to solve any of these problems. It just makes your debt last longer, while the underlying issues get worse. You are putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound and saying, all fixed up, you're good to go. No, you're not. Look, the real solutions to housing affordability, of course, involving addressing things like supply and demand. You regulate corporate speculation. You get private investors out of the market, build more affordable housing, obviously, and implement policies that actually help working people buy homes instead of just making people debt slaves for the rest of their lives. I mean, this mortgage proposal is not about solving housing problems. It's about creating a political talking point that sounds good to people who do not think beyond their monthly payments, which it will slightly decrease. Trump will get to say that he's doing something about it, without actually doing something about it. The same playbook that Trump uses on everything, okay? Announcing a flashy solution that sounds, ooh, impressive. Oh, wow, look at that. While ignoring the experts who explain why it's terrible and hope that the soundbite is more powerful than the actual substance. Meanwhile, the actual problems get worse and worse while politicians grandstand about superficial fixes. The 50-year mortgage is particularly cynical because it does exploit people's desperation to own a home by offering what appears to be relief, but is actually just extending the pain over a longer period of time. Here's what it actually means. It creates a generation of Americans who will make mortgage payments well into their retirement. Of course, there's a lot of people like myself that say, what retirement? I ain't never going to retire. I'll probably die on the job. Okay? Most people don't have a plan to retire. Most people are just like, I don't know, I'm just going to die at my desk or something. Just, you're going to have to haul me out of the office, my corpse, like you're a Democratic politician. I know, low blow, but it's true. It is true. Look, they're not going to be able to build their wealth through their home equity either because they're paying so much in interest right now. It's not home ownership, it's debt ownership. And it's going to create a society where people are permanently indebted to the banks and financial institutions, where the American dream of owning a home, free and clear, becomes impossible for most people. Look, I know Republicans, they claim to be a lot of things, right? They claim to believe in individual responsibility and limited government, right? And yet that same party is pretty eager to create a system that traps people in debt for life while enriching the financial industry. The real solutions, of course, to housing affordability are pretty straightforward, as I mentioned before, but they would actually require, governing, making difficult decisions that may upset the wealthy donors and the corporate interests. So that's why it's much easier to propose a flashy 50-year mortgage that sounds good on paper or campaign ad, while ignoring that it actually makes the underlying problems worse. The housing affordability crisis is real. It needs actual real solutions based on evidence and expertise, not promises that sound good if you're unable to do basic math.